What's up, guys and gals? Miramask here. We're going to be doing a special video today on live streaming. I call it, a miniature live stream university. There's a lot of misinformation out there on live streaming. Me personally, I've been streaming for 4 years. I've seen it all. I've done advanced custom overlays, really advanced setting stuff. But I'm going to try to squish all that down in a super short but very thorough video. I'm going to try to explain it the best that I can. I'm going to cover both OBS and XSplit, how to get your stream up and running on that, what the settings are, what you need to set to. I'll cover chroma keying or green screens, how to light properly, and also a special treat. I stream off Wi-Fi, and it is a huge misunderstanding out there about streaming off Wi-Fi. A lot of misinformation, a lot of people saying, look, dude, if you have Wi-Fi, you can't live stream. It'll be crap. That's not true. That is absolutely not true. I've been streaming personally on Wi-Fi for like 6 months, 6 or 7 months. Haven't had any real issues with it. There is a trick as to how to do it versus how not to do it. So stay tuned for that. We'll cover that towards the very tail end of the video. But hopefully you guys on Wi-Fi will be able to stream efficiently after you watch this video. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing we'll do, the basic settings. And I have OBS right here on the left-hand side of the screen and XSplit on the right. And I will show you kind of, what settings mean what on which software and vice versa, and their equivalent on the other software. So the first things first, you download OBS or you download XSplit. You're going to want to add, let's go ahead and remove all this stuff here. We'll just remove both scenes as well. All right, so starting fresh, the very first thing you're going to want to do is add a scene on both of them. Now, for XSplit, you don't have to add the scene. The scenes are already right here. You just select one. Mine are in a different order because of the way I arrange things in my head. All right, OBS, the scene section's over here. So we'll start with OBS on the left first. OBS on the left, you're going to right-click in the scene section, click Add Scene. You can name it whatever. I just call mine Scene. Then you're going to want to add sources. For XSplit, we'll get to this in a second. Like I said, you don't have to add the scene over here. It's already they're already pre-added right there. So for sources, the very first thing you're going to want to do is do your game capture, which will be right here. Game capture at the bottom. You name it whatever. Now I don't have any actual games running right now, so we'll just capture this web browser. But normally you would hit the drop down and find your game and add it. So I'll just click that. Let's make sure it added it. If it added it. It probably didn't add it because it's not an actual game. Let's try something else here. Yep, okay, that was a bad example. I don't have a game running, but anyway, that's how you would add a game. Like, you don't have to see me add an actual game to understand the concept. You right-click there, you click Game, and you select your game from there. Everything's good to go. Your game will show up in this window right here. Next, you're going to want to add a webcam. So you'll go to Add, and you will go to Video Capture Device. I don't have any webcams plugged up to this computer because I use a 2-PC setup and all my cameras are on my other one. But it's the same concept. You'll go in, you'll add your capture device, you'll select, whatever your webcam's name is from there. Now, one thing that you will want to do is when you select your camera, you're going to want to make sure the resolution's set right. Now, for a live stream, you do not have to stream with a 1080p camera unless you're going to be doing full screen stuff with your camera. If it's only ever going to be a small box in the corner like you see mine is right here, go ahead and set the resolution to 360p. It will greatly reduce the CPU power it takes to render your stream. Because if you think about it. If your big screen 360p yes, it'll look fuzzy. 1080p or 720p will look sharper. But when you shrink it down, all you're really doing is downsizing the 1080p to something smaller than 360p anyway. So why have the stream render it at 1080p only to display it in something smaller than 360p? So do yourself a favor, set it to 360p. My camera right now on this stream is 360p, or not on the stream, on this video. In my stream setup, it's running at 360p, even though it's a Logitech 1080p cam. I'm only running it at 360. So that's that. On the lighting, also make sure on your camera, please make sure you turn off auto white balance and autofocus. Make sure autofocus, auto white balance, all the auto settings are turned off. You do not want auto settings on a live stream webcam. And the reason is because lighting can change throughout the day, depending on where the sun is in the sky, coming through your windows, slightly changing, the brightness in your room and stuff will cause your camera to constantly be trying to adjust, and it won't be as smooth as mine is right now. It'll be kind of jittery and jumpy. If I turned on all my auto stuff, it would be like choppy looking. It'd look like a Skype video. So turn off all of your auto settings and manually adjust the lighting, or not lighting, the settings on your camera till it looks like you want it to look. And it'll be smooth because all the auto stuff's turned off. There won't be any shuddering. All right, so we got your game and your camera. Now, overlays and stuff, that I'll have to go into in another video, because there's some really advanced stuff that I've done with overlays in the past. And I'd be happy to teach you guys how to do some of the more advanced overlay stuff. That'll have to be in a separate video. Just let me know in the comments if you guys want that. Like I said, I've done some pretty advanced stuff in my 4 years of streaming. But what I've found is that, yes, you can go all advanced, but in the end, it doesn't really matter. You can have a simple setup like this. You don't even have to have a green screen. I literally just took my green screen down and went back to my black background. I like my black background better. It's personal preference. People are going to watch you, no matter what your camera stuff is. If it's a green screen, there's a whole audience that loves green screen stuff. If it's not a green screen, there's a whole audience that, likes backgrounds like this. I mean, it's completely up to you. So, with that being said, that covers the camera stuff. All right, next, we're going to cover the settings. All right. Actually, let me do the XSplit stuff. I'll kind of like hop back and forth instead of doing it on OBS and then doing it on XSplit. All right, so we added the stuff over there. Over on XSplit, you'll just click Add, you'll click Game Capture, and you'll do the same thing. You'll just select one. All right, same thing for the camera. You'll click Add, and you'll go to Webcam Capture Devices, and you'll enter your camera. All right, so that's covered. All right, so next, settings. So we'll go ahead and open up the settings for each one, just so I think it was that one. I prepared one of them. So we'll just do key, so that's in there. We'll have something to reference that with. All right, OBS first. Encoding settings. General settings you don't really have to mess with unless you're setting up separate profiles. And that's a little bit more advanced. I can get into that. If you got, like I said, if you guys want more advanced stuff, let me know in the comments, and I'll make a more advanced video. All right, so encoding settings. Pretty straightforward and simplistic looking. Don't let it confuse you. There's 3 different types of encoders. I run an AMD system, but my streaming PC is an Intel system. So I have quick sync on that one, but I don't on this one, so I can't show you that. But you're going to want to always, if you have the CPU power, go for X264. It is the most efficient compression method, encoding method out of the 3. So it uses raw CPU power. QuickSync and NVIDIA NVENC use your GPU onboard encoder. It's on your graphics card. The quick sync is on it uses the internal GPU on your CPU. Those, while yes, they will take the workload off of your CPU, they will not encode as efficiently. It takes more bit rate. Actually, it takes more bit rate than allowed to stream at most sites, which is 3,500 kilobits. It takes more than that to get a good quality looking stream out of using hardware encoders versus your CPU encoder. So that being said, always try to go for X264. If you can't, then go for quick sync over NVEC. NVEC uses so much data to make it look clear that it's not even worth using unless you absolutely have to. So always X264. The next option would be quick sync, and the next option after that, the third, would be NVIDIA NVEC. All right. So always try to go for a max bit rate of what's sustainable on your connection. I always try to give myself at least a 1.5 meg, overhead. So I have 5 megs up. That's my upload speed. 5 megs up, which is 5,000 kilobit. I stream at 3,500 kilobit. 3,500 is the max that you can stream to most platforms. YouTube will allow you to stream, at whatever bit rate you want to. But Twitch, Beam, Hitbox, most of the other ones, 3,500 is the cutoff. You don't want to stream more than 3,500 because you risk getting your account banned. So always set that at least 1.5 meg below what your bit rate is and no higher than 3,500. Use CBR. Enable CBR padding. The buffer size, you don't have to set a custom buffer size. You can if you want, but you don't need to. Just select, just equal it to whatever you set your max bit rate to. Audio stuff, you can, to free up some bit rate if you're on a slower internet connection, you can technically set your channel to mono and drop your bit rate all the way down to 32. Now, your audio is still going to come through clear, but it's not going to be as prominent. It's going to have a slight muffled sound to it, not by much. Now, I've streamed back when my internet was slow. I've streamed with a bit rate of 32 on my audio. So, it works, and no one ever said anything about my audio when I was set that low. So, to free up some bit rate, because you're talking about freeing up an additional, 100 kilobit that can be added to your video quality. All right, so with that being said, if you have the bandwidth, always try to go for 96 or 128 stereo. I personally do 128 stereo. That's me personally. All right, next over on the XSplit side. Same thing. It's a little bit more simpler, the layout over here on XSplit. You just select your code, X264. You set your max bit rate. Now, this isn't what I stream at because this is just my gaming software or system, so I just installed the software here to make the video. You have two different options, CBR, VBR. You have options over here, CBR, VBR as well. If you uncheck CBR on OBS, it'll give you the VBR options. I don't recommend using VBR, which is variable bit rate. And what that does, if no one's ever explained it to you guys, is it only uses as much data per frame as it needs to efficiently encode it to a set quality level. That's not to be confused with what I'll talk about later, and I'll reference VBR again when I talk about it later. It's not to be confused with adaptive bitrate. Adaptive CBR is not the same thing, and I'll repeat it. It's not the same thing as variable bitrate. So don't let people confuse you with that, because I've gotten in so many arguments when I tell people, oh, I have to use XSplit. They're like, oh, OBS has that too. I'm like, no, it doesn't. You're not educated on what you're saying. You're just spitting out what you've heard repeated, and you don't need to do that. There's too much of that going on in the internet world in general. We don't need it to bleed over into the gaming live stream world too. There's just too much misinformation. So hopefully this video will fix a lot of that. So anyway, we got the settings set up on OBS and on XSplit, and we'll get into some more advanced in the advanced tab in a second, which I'll bring up over here. But so CBR X264, set your bit rate at least 1.5 meg lower than what you got. You can push it if you're streaming with 1 meg, which I've done with a 1 meg upload. I've actually streamed a 550 kilobit stream before. You can get by squeezing a little bit more out of your overhead. Let's say you're at 1 meg, which is 1,000 kilobit. You could get by with streaming at 750 kilobit. It's not going to leave a lot of room for your online games to communicate back and forth with the servers, but it's doable. I've done it. It's doable. All right, so next tab, broadcast settings. This is where you're going to put in your key and all that stuff. You'll get your key, which I can't show you me putting a key in or anything, but you'll get your RTMP URL from your streaming platform, Twitch or Beam or Hitbox or wherever will provide you with an RTMP URL. You'll put that in there, and you'll put that in here. The FMS URL is the same thing as the RTML or the RTMP URL on XSplit. And then your stream key will go right here, stream key, and your stream key will be your stream name on XSplit. All right, so with all that done, that's all you need to do on that section. All right, video. Video is where you're going to do your downscaling at, which you want to downscale at because, look, you can't stream at 1080p. I know you want to stream at 1080p. A lot of you just desperately want to stream at 1080p, but unless you're partnered or you're streaming on a platform that gives you quality options if you're not a partner, such as Beam.pro or YouTube, you do not want to stream at 1080p, and here's why. If you go and you watch a person stream at 1080p, and then you open up your task manager and you look at how much CPU power it takes just for the viewer to watch your stream at 1080p. Not to mention if you're streaming at 1080p 60 FPS, which a lot of people like to try to do with these FPS games, it cripples the viewer base for your stream. You're cutting out a tremendous amount of viewers that cannot watch you at 1080p 60 FPS, let alone they can't even watch you at 1080p 30 frames per second. So do the streaming world a favor and stream at 720p 30 frames a second. That way you give yourself the chance to get the biggest audience that you can. Most people in the modern day world can watch a live stream at 720p 30 frames per second. So set it for that. On OBS, you're going to want to drop down and use the Lanczos filter. So that's the best. It'll give you the crispest, sharpest image, so just use that filter. On XSplit, you're going to have to put in a custom parameter to use that filter. Now, that custom parameter, which let me see if I can pull it up over here, because I want you guys to see it. I don't know if I can. Yeah, since I'm doing the video, I can't pull it up, but it's not necessary on XSplit. It's just one extra step. XSplit does a pretty good job at encoding, whereas OBS, you're going to want to use that Lanczos setting. You don't necessarily have to on XSplit. It's just one additional step. It's more of an advanced thing. It's a line of code that you got to put in. Like I said, if you guys want a more advanced video, let me know in the comments. I'll be sure to get all that done for you. So next, after we've got that done, you're going to want to drop down to Advanced. And this is where the compression magic happens. And in XSplit, it'll be this tab over here. It'll be right here, this little gear icon right here will bring up the same settings as you have on the Advanced tab in OBS. Well, not all the same settings, but the presets that we're going to go for. Now, leave the process priority normal. Default down here, encoding profile main. This is the only option that you're going to want to change in the settings. Just make sure use multiple thread optimizations on and use CFR, constant frame rate. All right, so the setting that you're going to want to change here is your preset. Now, if you're not running a beefy system, and by beefy system, I mean an i7 or an AMD FX 8350 or higher, You do not want to take this off of very fast. Very fast is the default. Now, if you're running a 2PC setup with a capture card, it's the same setup. It's just that you're using the capture card as a webcam feed into your second PC. The same way you would add a webcam like we did at the beginning of the video, you would just add the capture card. Then you've taken the encoding completely off the gaming CPU, and it's the only thing happening on the second PC is the encoding of the stream. Then you'll have a little bit of leeway to go messing with the CPU presets and slowing them down a little bit, getting a little bit more compression out. Really, I don't recommend going anything past fast. Fast is a good compression. It's going to use a lot of CPU power, but it's not going to use as much as medium, slower, slower. And medium, slower, slower use a ton of CPU power for like maybe 2% better quality. It's just not worth it to go down past fast. Now, over on XSplit, the same setting would be right here. Encoder preset. You got very fast, which is the default, faster, fast, medium, and slow. Just set it on very fast. Just leave it on very fast unless you've got a beefy CPU. And I'll repeat, i7 or FX 8350 or higher on the AMD side. Don't take it off very fast. All right, so that covers that, the basics of that. So with that done, let's cover a little bit about lighting. Now, you do not have to use the color green for a green screen. All right. You do not have to use chroma key green. You can use a variety of colors of greens. You can use blues. The main goal is you want to use a color background that does not have the same, you don't have the same colors in your skin tone. Greens and blues are not in the human skin. It's not in the pigment, so it's not going to be removed from the frame. So that's why you want to use greens or blues. But I've used neon orange. I've used hot pink. I've used a lot of different colors as backgrounds in the past to do chroma key. Some work better than others. The greens and the blues. The greens specifically work better than anything else. So let's cover lighting now. Now, I have prepared a picture that I drew with my awesome art skills. Boom. There we go. All right, so here's how you're going to want to set this up. And I've seen so many people screw up their live stream settings. And here's how you can tell if someone's got a bad lighting setup on their green screen. They'll have sparkles in their green screen. You'll see it. It'll be taken out. You'll see through it, but you'll see little flickers all over the place. It's like a sparkling effect. And what that's caused by is improper lighting. And so I'm going to show you real quick with this little art diagram I drew with my amazing skills, how you're going to set up your lighting properly for a chroma key setup. So here's the deal. With the lights, you do not have to use softbox lights, although they are pretty cheap these days, and I totally recommend them. They're the big studio lights with the softener Velcro cover that goes over them. But you can use the little silver dome work lamps that are like $5 at Walmart and get you some white shower caps. I know it sounds crazy, but the very first green screen I ever used, that's what I used. White shower caps. You're going to use those as softeners. And then get you some daylight bulbs. Daylight bulbs, if you look at the temperature on a bulb when you buy it, it'll have a Kelvin degree. 5,000 K or higher is what you want to use for lights. So you got your bulbs, you got your little, Walmart lamps, your little clamp lamps, and you've got the shower caps. All right, so you'll put the bulbs in there, you'll put the shower caps over them, and then turn them on. Ta-da! Now you've got miniature softbox lights. Now you can go and spend $20 or $30 and get you some actual, a piece, so about 60 or 70 bucks, to get you some soft boxes off Amazon or something. But here's how you're going to want to set the lights up. All right, your camera in your desk or your camera in your monitor, whichever you want to look at this as, right here in front of you, aimed directly at you. You can do it off to the side if you want. Just make sure your background is rotated for the angle of that camera. All right, then your lights you're going to want to set up kind of like this, and you want them higher than your head. And here's where I see a lot of people screw up. They put their lights level with their face, but what that does is it creates a halo shadow. And the shadow on the top of your head, you'll see the green screen bleed, and they'll be outlined in green or blue. That's why that's happening, is because your lights are not high enough to create halo light, which is lights that come down at an angle on the top of your head and kind of illuminate the outline of you so that that green does not bleed through. So make sure your lights are at least, the bottom of your light should be level with the top of your head, kind of angled down at you. So that way it gets rid of all that shadow that's created. Next, you want to line your lights up properly. And here's a little diagram of how it works. Here's the screen behind me right here. Making sure you guys can see it over there. Screen's right here. Camera, me, and screen are all lined up. Now, you want to angle your lights like a scissor pattern, like this, right? With you in the center being the pivot point. You want the light, let's say your left light, or your right light in this case, since the video is turned around. You want it to come through and shine your shadow off of the green screen. You don't want it to shine your shadow onto the screen, because that'll create that glitter effect. You don't want that. So make sure when you're angling your lights that you scissor them to where your shadows cross and go off of the green screen. See in this diagram, this light's coming here, casting the shadow off of the screen. This light's coming here, casting the shadow off of the screen. Now, if the lights had been closer, like I've seen a lot of people do, it'll shine here and put the shadow right in the range that the camera picks up. This one will do the same thing, and then you'll have an entire shadow that covers the entire screen behind you. It'll filter out the green, but all that little sparkly stuff you see happening on a lot of live streamers' green screens, that's what's causing it. They don't have their lights set up properly. So make sure, I know I'm spending a lot of time on this subject, but make sure the lights are scissored properly to where the shadows are off of the green screen. Or at least they can be on the green screen, but at least out of the range that your camera is picking up. You can crop your camera so that it cuts all that out, so that you'll have a very nice looking chroma key effect. I know I'm like off center of my camera. I'm like leaning on my chair over here. Sorry about that. Next up is going to be your microphone setup, which to me, I'm a microphone audiophile. Like, I have so many microphones, it's ridiculous. Now, a lot of people are going to tell you, go out and get a condenser mic. Go out and get a Blue Yeti. Go out and get a AT2020. Go get an ATR 2500. Blah, 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 blah. You know, there are so many opinions on microphones. But I'm going to tell you, for broadcasting purposes, you're going to want to really use a dynamic mic. And the reason I say that is because of the different way that a dynamic mic works versus a condenser mic. A condenser mic uses like a plate inside of it, electromagnetized plate that picks up sound vibration. All right, it's extremely sensitive, extremely sensitive. You don't want sensitivity when you're live streaming. You don't want to be typing on a keyboard and it picking up, or have someone shutting a door in the house and it be picking it up. You don't want to have to use like voice gates and stuff. You don't want to have to use that. So get a dynamic microphone. And I'm going to cover some of this in this right here. A good microphone that I recommend is the Behringer XM8500. It's a dynamic cardioid vocal mic. Cardioid is the pickup pattern, which means it picks up in like a bubble right around the front. It won't pick up anything behind it. It won't pick up really anything beside it. I can tap on my keyboard. I can bang on my desk. I can slam things down. It's not picking it up that much. Now, if it had been a condenser mic, you'd have heard all kinds of noise. Look, I'm gonna tap my microphone. I'm tapping my microphone right now. I'm tapping the stand right now. I'm tapping it hard. It's moving the microphone. You can see it. It's not picking it up that much because it's a dynamic microphone. It only picks up what's in front of it. it muffles and mutes out everything else. Now, a condenser mic can do corduroy too, but it's super sensitive. You don't want super sensitive when you're broadcasting. You want a good, clean, you want the depth in your voice to come out. You want it to represent a deeper voice, your real voice. You don't want it super sensitive where it's picking up more of the highs of your voice than the lows. You just don't want that. Next step, so I recommend that. It's a $20 mic. All right, Yeti costs $100 and something. Depending on where you get it, you might be able to get it a little cheaper. This is $20. Next thing you're going to want is a mixer. A mixer. I recommend the Behringer Q502 USB 5-channel. I use the 8-channel version, but and this is $60. So you're up to $80 right now. All right, which is still cheaper than the Yeti. The reason I recommend this one is because it has a one-knob compressor on it. Compression is so important for vocals. I mean, think about it. If compression wasn't important, then why do radio stations have an entire room, an entire rack wall behind them dedicated to doing nothing but processing the voice? It's because the human voice is so dynamic that it's hard to accurately represent it without compression. So I can talk loud and I can talk low, and it'll compress it. It'll make it all sound roughly the same volume. So that's what a compressor does. It takes the low. When I say low, I don't mean deep. I mean soft, and the high, and brings the whisper sound and the yelling sound to about the same volume range. That's why my mic right now sounds more like a radio mic than most other live streamers that you've probably come across, because I use compression. Compression is super important. It'll make you sound a lot better, a lot more professional. That's what you want to be as a live streamer, is someone who is knowledgeable and professional sounding. So we've got the green screen covered. We've got the microphone covered. I recommend getting this mixer, and I recommend getting this microphone and an XLR cable to connect the two. This is USB, so it plugs directly in. It shows up just like a microphone in the software. Next, this is completely optional. You don't have to. I recommend it. It's only $11. This is the shock mount that I use. I don't know if you guys can see it right here. You can see it right here. But it lets my microphone float the same way that a shock mount for a condenser mic would work, which I don't have one over here. My shock mount for my other one's way over there, and I don't feel like getting up to get it. But it suspends the microphone. So little vibrations in the mic stand or the mic arm. You can use a boom arm, or you can use a floor boom arm. It's up to you, a scissor arm or a boom arm. But this will help isolate the microphone from unwanted vibrations coming up the microphone thing. So if I was going to recommend a setup for you, microphone-wise, this is what I would recommend. Now, you can, if you want to, get a Shure SM58 microphone, which is what I personally use right here. I don't know why I have the box sitting at my desk, but I use the Shure SM58, and that's backwards, so whatever. It's a really good microphone. I love it. It's one of my favorite microphones. Back when I was a musician touring around and stuff, the Shure SM58 was one of my microphones to go to. This was the other microphone of choice that I always used. This was the one I always carried around with me. It was the Behringer XM8500. It's a very good microphone. It sounds very similar to the Shure. It's just the build quality is not quite there. A $20 mic versus a $100 mic. But don't let that fool you. Dynamic microphones don't cost as much as condenser microphones for the same quality level. So don't think a $20 mic is going to be a cheap out. It's not. It's a good microphone. It's very rugged. I've had mine for 10 years, and it still works great. I had my Yeti for 2 years, and it's fucking broke. So there you go. That mixer, that microphone, that shock mount. You guys can pause the video here to get the details on that. You can pause the video here, and you can pause the video here. All right, so with all that said and done, now for the thing y'all have been waiting for, for all you Wi-Fi users out there. I currently am on Wi-Fi right now. I use my ISP delivers my internet through long-range Wi-Fi. They have some antennas on the top of the water tower in the town. They give you a little LTE router with some antennas, and it picks it up from, a mile and a half away. There's a lot of fluctuation in the internet signal. So if you're doing live streaming or thinking of doing live streaming over Wi-Fi, you cannot use OBS. You have to use XSplit. And the reason being is, and I don't know why OBS has not put this in there yet, I've written email after email to them saying, look, I would love to come back and use OBS, but you guys don't have this feature, and now that I'm on long-range Wi-Fi, I need this feature. What this feature is, let me pull up the settings here. It's called Adaptive CBR. Now, it's not to be, and I'll repeat again like I said earlier, Adaptive CBR is not the same thing as VBR. VBR is variable bitrate. It applies to how much data is used to encode a frame to meet a quality level. That's all VBR is. What Adaptive CBR is think of it like this. All right, you tell your live stream, or you tell your streaming software, I want you to stream at 3,500 kilobit. Your software says, okay, I will encode every frame at 3,500 kilobit, right, per second. So if you're doing 30 frames a second and you're 3,500 kilobits a second, that breaks down to 3,500 divided by 30, which is a number. I don't know what it is. But anyway, point I'm making is that's what you've told your software to do. Stream at this level at a constant bit rate of 3,500. Well, what the software is going to do is it's going to try to stream at 3,500. But if you're on long-range Wi-Fi and your signal dips real quick and your speed drops for just a split second, I'm talking like a half a second, your signal dropped from 3,500 to 2,000 and then back up to 3,500. Well, what that's done to your live stream is you've probably dropped like 30 frames, just like that. And if it happens rapidly, over and over and over the course of a minute, you'll see those drop frames start stacking up. 10, 20, 25, 30, 40. And after 10 minutes of streaming, you're like, okay, well, I've dropped 500 frames. That's not that bad, but really what's happening to your viewers is it's causing freezes and hangs and pauses. And a lot of the times, it usually happens when you're like, all right, guys, this is the most important thing I'm ever going to tell you on this game. And that's all I had to say. You know what I mean? It's crap. People will leave because of drop frames. So the way to get around that, if you're a Wi-Fi streamer, is to use Adaptive CBR, which only exists in XSplit. What Adaptive CBR does is you say, okay, I want you to stream at 3,500 kilobits XSplit. XSplit says, okay, I'm going to stream at 3,500 kilobit, but I see that you've checked Adaptive CBR. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to always stream at 3,500 kilobit. But if I detect a problem in your internet speed, I'm going to lower the bit rate of the stream until I'm able to stream at 3,500 kilobit again. So what happens to your stream is you're streaming at 3,500 kilobit. Your internet dips down to 2 meg real quick and then back up. What happens is you didn't drop frames. The viewer sees your stream's looking great, and then all of a sudden the quality drops just a little bit for a half a second, then goes back up to a good quality again. You didn't drop any frames because XSplit, through Adaptive CBR, took those frames that it would have normally dropped because they didn't meet the 3,500 kilobit mark and just encoded them at a lower bit rate. So you didn't drop any frames. The frame to the stream to your viewers looks constant and smooth the entire time. I would rather see a slight, when I say slight, I'm talking real slight quality drop. I'd rather see that and the thing stay smooth and I hear the audio the whole way. I hear all the important things they're trying to say. I'd rather see that happen than to have the thing freeze and hang on me. That's like the worst. It makes it unwatchable. So if you're streaming Wi-Fi and people have always told you you can't live stream from Wi-Fi, or you've tried to do it with OBS and you didn't know about adaptive CBR and you've had nothing but a headache with it, you know, I'm glad you found this video, because the people saying that are just not in the know. They're just not knowledgeable. They're sharing crap information. You can stream with Wi-Fi. You just have to use XSplit. It's that simple. And make sure you check adaptive CBR. And that's all you have to do. And you can stream just fine with Wi-Fi. I stream with Wi-Fi, like I said, for the past 6 months. And I have no problems with it. Except when my ISP's upgrading, which they're doing right now. They've took on a lot more customers and they're having to expand their network. So my internet's dropping out a little bit every now and then. But that's that. That's the overview of the whole video that I wanted to do. It's very, very short, compressed video. I tried to leave out a lot of the advanced stuff because I want to do that in a separate video only if you guys want to, because that stuff takes a little bit more explanation and time. But anyway, you guys take care. Make sure to check me out on my live stream, twitch.tv/MirrorMassTV or beam.pro/MirrorMassTV. I will see you guys later. Have a good one. Make sure to follow me on those live streams and follow me on Twitter, and hit the sub button and the like button on this video. And make sure to share it with your friends who are thinking of getting into live stream or something like that. So I'll see you guys later. Also, one other feature about having this mixer, right, is it has a mute button on it. I don't know why I didn't cover this earlier. I was about to cough, and it made me think about it. It's so easy to just reach over, hit the mute button real quick, and then you're back. It's just, that's one of the beauties of having a mixer. It's one of the beauties of having a mixer versus trying to use a condenser mic or having to touch the microphone to hit the condenser and having like a boom sound or something like that. It's just that simple. It's just, and it's back on. It's awesome. So you guys take care. I'll see y'all in the next video, which I don't know when I'll make. I do a lot of live streaming lately. That's kind of my thing I do now. So I'll see you guys on the stream. Y'all take care. Have a good one. Peace.